drugs. How much do you really know about drugs? I'm talking about illegal drugs and legal drugs, or what's called medication in some parts of the world. And how much do you think your children know about these drugs? But more importantly, have you ever had a really open and honest conversation with anyone or your children about drugs, the use of drugs, and the dangers of drug use? My guest today is Jennifer Burruel. She is a mother who lost a son to fentanyl, and she's here today to share her mission with us. Jennifer, thank you so much for making the time for this conversation, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Can I just start by saying I'm so sorry for your tremendous loss that you have suffered.
Thank you.
Can you tell us your story and what happened that got you on this track?
So my son Christopher had just turned 29. We just celebrated his 29th birthday together as a family. And he was working with the community and sharing the gospel with people on the streets of San Francisco, California. And so he had told me at the time of his birthday that he had goals to become a pastor with his own church. By the time he was 30, that was his goal. And unfortunately, 3 weeks after his birthday, he had gone back to the city, and I got the phone call that is every parent's worst nightmare. And my son had died from fentanyl poisoning. So we had been devastated. I mean, it was, we've come to learn that the autopsy showed that there was also anti-anxiety medication in his system. So I'm guessing that he probably took a pill from somebody he thought he could trust to help with that, because his line of work, I think, was pretty stressful. What he did was very hard emotionally. And so that's unfortunately what is happening now here in America. You cannot get anything on the streets. Everything seems to be laced with the illicit fentanyl nowadays.
Mm-hmm. It seems so. And we have the same problem in South Africa. And I think it's a worldwide issue. Really, really big issue.
Yeah.
So what, can you explain to us briefly what this means when you're saying everything is laced with illegal fentanyl?
So I have joined forces with the district attorney's office, and I have learned so much from the narcotics prosecutor, who they've invited me to go and join them in doing fentanyl presentations in various middle schools, high schools. And so I've learned a lot from her. And basically what the drug cartels are doing is they will stamp a pill, make it look, they press it, stamp it to look like it's the actual pill, whether it's a pain pill, an anxiety pill, any kind of medication. It can actually look like the authentic pill, but it's laced. And I've heard so many times where a kid will they'll try something, experimentation. And two children, they cut the pill in half and they both took a half. One child lived, one child died. Sure. And you think, well, how the heck did that happen with one pill? But what I've learned is that obviously the drug cartels are not mixed. It's not being made properly and stirred up evenly, So the fentanyl was one end of the pill and not the other. So it's like Russian roulette,
Good grief.
Yeah, so it's very scary, and I think that's why we are targeting the children, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, all the way up till through high school, because a lot of kids, they want to experiment, and nowadays you just can't. You can't take the risk, and I always tell kids, if you are not getting the medication straight from a pharmacy, it's not worth it. It's not worth the
Don't
trying
even take that risk.
Right.
Oh, it's frightening. Yeah.
And it's growing too, because I've been doing actually multiple billboards involving multiple families. The one that I currently have up in town has 22 fentanyl victims, ranging between the ages of 1 year old to 40. And this is the first time I've had a billboard with actually 4 babies on it. So yeah, so it's if you come into contact with it, I think we have to teach and educate the society that it's not a druggie's problem, or somebody older. It's these babies are obviously not taking drugs, so they had to have become exposed to it in some form. So it's not an overdose, it's a poison, because it doesn't take very much to kill you.
Yes, I love that you call it a poison, because that's what it literally is. And it's snuggled in all kinds of underhanded ways.
Absolutely.
To literally be put into people's bodies.
Yeah.
Wow. Jennifer, can we take a moment and just go back to your son? Please tell us what his name is.
Christopher. Or Joseph.
Yeah. Christopher Joseph. And if we can maybe just take a moment and pause here. Do you have many unanswered questions around his death and what happened, what led to it, but you know for sure that it was fentanyl?
Yes. Didn't know it at the time, but once I received the autopsy, it listed fentanyl at the very top. And that was what was found most in his system. And below that was the benzoprine, something, an anti-anxiety medication.
Okay.
So that was obviously what got him. But he was found in Golden Gate Park alone. And it really tore me up when I read that multiple people that found him, and then the EMTs and everybody described that he was in a praying position. And that literally made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I just thought, oh my God, like he likely knew that something didn't feel right, something was happening. And I feel in my heart that my son dropped to his knees and prayed. Because a praying position of all things. I mean, and I don't know if he was alone. I don't know. I feel like maybe he would have had friends with him, somebody with him. But I hear this so much too, that if a child or if a person dies and there's friends around, they take off. They do not want to be associated or responsible in any way. So they leave. And I hear about that more and more. High school students at parties, house parties, people will just leave. And it's so sad. Instead of calling for help, or in this case, I've learned about Narcan. The naloxone is the proper name, but we call it Narcan kits, which is what I do pass out. I distribute to the community at my events, at my rallies or billboard, events. Because if everybody carried one of those kits with them and somebody goes down, you have the ability to help save their life.
That's like the best antidote. Is that the right word? But it's another drug, but it reverses the symptoms.
Yeah, it reverses the symptoms.
Yeah. Okay. And is that something that is legal to have on you to carry around?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But again, I find that when I try to distribute them to the public, we hear a lot of people say, oh, no, I don't need one of those. Well, maybe you don't, but somebody around you and your family, your friends, even a stranger goes down in the store next to you, you have the option to try to save their life.
That's very good to know, but I'm wondering if it can be harmful to give to somebody if fentanyl is not the problem?
It cannot hurt. Yeah, okay. It cannot do any damage.
So one can basically say, if you're unsure at all, give it to them, just in case.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, I went through a training at the county health department,
Mm-hmm.
And so I went through the training on how you would use it on somebody, and there's no risk, in using it. And then they do provide me with an endless amount of supply to pass out at all of my events. Mm-hmm. So that's been a godsend.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm wondering if it's available in South Africa. That's something that I will pursue and find out. But it's good to know that there is something that can be done about it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting what you mentioned about people saying, no, I don't need it. There's a perception that it's only people who use recreational drugs or drug addicts or the junkies, as they are called sometimes,
right,
who will have these kind of problems. And that is actually very far from the truth. Exactly.
We have a lot of education to do to the communities, to the public, because there is a perception it's just not accurate. And that's why having 4 babies on my billboard right now is, it's so sad, but it shows the public that this can affect anybody at any age. Fentanyl does not discriminate. So how does one get to have the autopsy done? Or is it when people die in that manner, is an autopsy an automatic next step, or do you have to request it? No, I think it's usually done anytime a younger person would, pass away that's healthy, just to find out, what was the cause. Yeah, I know in some countries, South Africa also, if they're under 18, there's always an autopsy to determine the cause of death. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. It is. I'm getting goosebumps just listening to you. It's absolutely shocking how big this problem is, and the world is ignorant about this. So you're doing a lot of campaigns, and I've seen the photos of the billboards. I'd love to share some of them here. Yes. In the video. And you do talks at schools, and you basically reaching out wherever you can to increase the awareness of this. Yeah. It's too late to save my own child, but, I've made it my mission to help save other people's children, to help save others, because like you said, it's becoming more and more prevalent. I know that when my son passed away in September of 2022, I wasn't really hearing anything about it at that time. I hadn't really heard. There is fentanyl given medically, by doctors and hospitals. That's different. That's a different fentanyl. What is happening is it's the illicit fentanyl that the drug cartels and, that they make. Yeah. 2 separate things. Fentanyl is actually a synthetic drug that was developed for cancer patients and patients suffering from severe pain. And as far as that's concerned, it was a good thing. Like you said, that was for a good intention and it served a good purpose. And I believe that they say that fentanyl is something like 20 or 40 times stronger or more than heroin, and like 100 times stronger than heroin. Yeah. Heroin. And even stronger than morphine that was normally or traditionally used as pain medication. Hey, so that's where it starts, that's where it comes from, or where it originated. It is a synthetic drug. Yeah. But now, the drug cartels have really capitalized on this one. Right. Sure. So tell us a little bit about you were talking about your campaigns and your outreach and all the awareness that you're creating. Yes. How are you received? Because I started this conversation with the introduction asking people whether they're actually having open and honest conversations. How are you received? Because it's not a topic that people feel free to talk about in most cultures, most communities. Well, it's actually growing. And I think that's what I was starting to share earlier, was that when my son died in September of 22, it was not heard about as much as now. I have a little niece. She's 8 years old, 3rd grade. And my sister told me that the school had sent something home with her. This is in third grade,
Sure.
to warn the parents that they are now coming out with these. They look like candy. They're colorful. They're
Mm-hmm.
these little. It looks like little nerds or what are those candies called? M&Ms or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's obviously to attract the children.
Yes.
It's an intentional, um, persuasive way to draw in little children.
Mm.
And so it's actually growing quite a bit in these past 2 years. I mean, I'm hearing more and more about it. Like I said, it's reaching now different age groups, babies. I mean, it's just awful. So to answer your question, I am received very supportively. I've been asked to come and speak at churches and other events. And the district attorney, like I said, they asked me to join them in their campaign, their slogan, which is one pill can kill, which is true, as we've learned. But I go in and I just share my son's story and, his hopes and his dreams and everything that he definitely did not want his life to end. And so I really just try to let these kids know the ugly truth and scare them straight. Um, but I've got a lot of support in the community, a lot of people, and it's growing, which is sad, but it's good to feel that I have the support.
And it's so important. It's so important. So it's wonderful to hear that it is growing. Everybody needs to know about this. You're doing great
Right.
work. I must commend you for that.
Thank
I'm
you.
wondering, as I work with a lot of people who go through trauma, loss and grief and medical trauma of all kinds. And I also coach parents to raise their children to be resilient and aware and all these sort of things. That's what my Get Up and Grow initiative is actually all about, is to cultivate resilient families. And
Yeah.
that's why I invited you to this conversation, because it's so important, the knowledge that every family needs about this. But it changes so quickly, and the drug cartels come up with new tricks of their trade so often that it's a lifelong mission to just stay on top of the developments. But it's so important to have this knowledge, have the insight in it, and have the conversations around it, which
Yes.
brings me to coaching parents on how to have those conversations. You mentioned that you were already addressing children in third grade. My goodness, that is so young.
I know.
Whereas one would think, based on the perception that these kind of problems are associated with drug addicts and junkies and people who do recreational drugs,
Right.
that happens in the teenage years, but it's not really the case.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's very sad that you have to have those kind of conversations with your little children that
Mm,
shouldn't have to worry about stuff like that. But
mm,
there's just, I believe that I read just recently, they used to say every 11 minutes. I think this was about the country I'm in, but maybe it's worldwide, but it did say every 11 minutes somebody dies from fentanyl poisoning. And now it's changed to every 5. So it
wow.
is getting worse.
Shocking.
We're going in the wrong direction. And I feel this is what's fueling me. The pain, obviously, from losing my own child. I had to put my pain into a purpose. I had to do something. And, you know, doing things to try to help save lives is what keeps me going. But I knew that when I did this recent billboard versus the one from 4 or 5 months ago, it's like we're going in the wrong direction here. It's getting worse.
Mm.
And I really don't know what the answer is other than continually trying to educate and spread the awareness. I mean, that's what I will keep doing until my last breath. That is my calling.
Sure. Yeah. I'm reminded of what we were told as kids. Don't take sweets from strangers.
Mm-hmm.
And that still stands today, but we have to expand that to don't take pills from strangers or from anyone, actually, other than your pharmacy. because you just don't know what's in it.
Right. And small little children, like I said earlier, I mean, they're making them pretty little colors to, I mean, this is an intentional attack.
Yes.
On us. So I don't know. I really don't know, other than just sitting down with your kids at the earliest age where they can comprehend and just scare them straight to not try anything, not take anything that you're offered, even by a friend that you trust. Because that actually, I actually met a nice lady. She lost her son to fentanyl. He was a high school student, and he was at a house party, and they slipped this, I don't know if it was in a powder form, I'm assuming, in his drink as a joke. It had fentanyl in it. He didn't even know what hit him. So, you know, that's the other thing, is when you're talking to kids that are, even if they're not experimenting, the cautions that you have to take around your peers and around others and strangers. You know, do not leave a drink if you're sipping like he always drank from, you know, like a straw, and had his soda, but they slipped this in his drink without him even knowing. And that's the way he passed away. And it's just, I'm hearing so many different stories from different people and so many different journeys. And yet here we all are at the same destination, and we are all suffering and struggling and trying to figure out how to make a difference, how to help. Because we don't, you know, we lost our babies. We wouldn't wish this pain on anyone.
Yeah. Wow. And I'm wondering if there's any way to test it beforehand. As I was listening to you talking about the drinks that being spiked, I mean, I think it's utterly ridiculous that people can think it's a joke to do that in the first place.
Right.
But beyond that, I recently did an interview with somebody who designed the drinker bell, which is a cover that you put on top of your glass. That is, I want to say, waterproof, so they can't actually drop anything or sneak anything into your drink. It's a great product, and I think I'll share the details with this video also. For whoever's interested, you can buy them online. But they also have a product, a little test strip that reminds almost of the strips that we use for urine tests when you go to the doctor. You know, all the drug tests that you can buy over the counter, something like that, that you can actually put into your drink, and it'll show you some of the drugs if there's something in there. And I'm wondering if somebody has perhaps developed a way to test stuff to see, you know, for fentanyl, if there's anything like that yet.
I don't know, because I've heard that the fentanyl is odorless and tasteless.
Okay.
That's what I have come to learn.
So it's hard to detect.
And I mean, I do have here in the Narcan kits, we also distribute, by the way, this is the Narcan that we pass out. And of course, I wanted to do it in honor of my son, so it's a little label there. But anyway, it's everything you need is in this one kit. And then also we now have the fentanyl strips where you can actually test it. But this is if somebody is experimenting, somebody knows what they're doing, wants to take a drug. This is something that you would use to see if fentanyl is in the drug before taking it. Okay. But obviously so many times, you know, people are accidentally poisoned. So this only works part of the time.
So, yeah. So it's just not safe to, let's say you're in a social situation somewhere and you have a headache, to take a pill that somebody else hands you because you don't know where it comes from.
That's what I tell the students at the schools. Just unless you're getting it from a pharmacy, do not take the risk. It's just not worth it.
Sure. And can you tell us a little bit about this? And please let me know if it's a bit too upsetting for you. What happens when you get fentanyl in your system? What happens and how quickly does it happen?
You know, I don't know exactly, but I've heard that it's fairly quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they don't know really. I mean, like I said earlier in the conversation, because of the positioning that my son was found in, I'm thinking it had to have been fairly quick, but it was enough time for him to know that something wasn't right. But again, I wasn't there. I don't know. I've never seen somebody go through an overdose or a fentanyl poisoning. I've never witnessed it. So I'm not sure, but it's fairly quick is what I've heard.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you have any idea of how many people survive when they get fentanyl in their system? Is there a good survival
Very
rate?
few. But if the Narcan is used promptly, they stand a good chance to
and fast enough, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah. But it would have to be used fairly quickly because of how quickly the fentanyl will kill you.
I think that's something that needs to go into every first aid kit these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, I just, I don't know if you saw the pictures that I posted on my page, but I did a Narcan, like a big mailbox. We spray painted it purple, but with all the stickers, but it's free Narcan for the neighborhood. And I have that installed out in my front yard.
So, that's wonderful. Yeah.
It's just whoever I can get to and give them one of these kits, that's how I'm going to do it. So you never know who's walking by, and if they just want to take a kit for free, that's great.
Jennifer, you do amazing work. Who pays for all of this?
Well, me.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I mean, I do have a lot of, initially when I put up my first billboard, it was just of my son, and wanted to get, you know, honor him and get it out there, spread the awareness. And so the money, well, first of all, we weren't charged the full amount because it was not an advertisement. It was a public service announcement. So we got a 50% discounted rate for it, but still it was quite costly and a couple $1,000. And I had many friends, family, and some people in the community that knew about Christopher, knew what happened. They donated. And so we were able to do it that way. But since then, now that I'm including multiple victims, I charge $100, and that for 22 people, that covers the whole amount.
Okay.
So I'm finding ways as more and more people are, being affected by this and want to do something, they can do it. They can make a huge, powerful statement like a billboard with just a minimal payment.
Okay. Well, that's a great way for everybody to make a small contribution to a huge campaign, actually, because a billboard is a nice big.
It's very powerful
thing. Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, I've heard that maybe the county or the city might have funds allocated for stuff like this, but I have yet to find out who and where. Aside from just the personal donations, I don't know if there's anything out there. I'm still trying to search that and see, because all of the rallies that I host, I'll put up all of the people's pictures that they send their photos of their loved one. I print them, enlarge them like an 8x10 size, put them in a frame, and that's what we display on the tables out there, and that's growing. We've got probably close to 100 victims framed out there on tables, so the impact is quite large. But yeah. But I mean, it started small. It started the very first time I ever did anything with my best friend, who was actually Christopher's godmother. We went out and we sat together, just her and I. We took a couple of signs, handmade signs, and we sat out on a busy street, held up the signs and a picture of my son. It was just her and I. That's how it started. And we, in these 2 years, it's just grown where I just have so much support. Yes, I've invested some of my own money, but it's happened, it's evolved gradual. So it's been able to be done. And I don't mind. I mean, obviously, if there's, people that want to sponsor or donate, that would be great. But if not, it's not going to stop me. I'm going to continue to do what I can do.
Mm. That's absolutely amazing that you're doing that. Tell us about your family and how this is affecting them. Have you got other children?
I do. I have 3 others, 2 girls and another son. Christopher was the oldest. And they have been adversely affected. I mean,
yes.
My youngest had just gone off to college, moved into another city, and went to college. And I was experiencing that emptiness syndrome that everybody talks about. And I thought that was difficult. But 4 weeks after she had left, and I was barely starting to kind of figure my life out without children. And then I got the news about my son, about Christopher. And that made the emptiness syndrome feel like nothing. I mean, that was, I have never, there really are no words to describe this kind of pain. I mean, there's just no words. I've never felt it. The things that I have felt, I didn't even know existed. I know I'm going to see my son again. We are, my family, we're Christian, we're believers, and we know that Christopher is in heaven, and I believe I will see my son again. But knowing I will never see him again in this life, it's just too much. It's just so, this is why I try to stay so busy doing what I'm doing, because I don't know what I'd do if I didn't stay busy. I feel like I would die of a broken heart. So I don't know. Every day is like Groundhog's Day. You just it's the same every day, but you just keep going and you keep trying. And I believe I'll see my son again one day.
Sure.
I pray that I will.
Grief is a terrible thing with the loss of a child. And I want to just say to you, Jennifer, again, that I am an honored witness to your grief. And I'm in awe of what you're doing. And it's beautiful how you said you had to turn your pain into a purpose. And I can see you doing that every day. And I hope that helps, that brings some relief, some healing in the process. Do you think that it's helping you to heal?
I think in a way it is. I mean, I'm definitely not healed. I don't know that anybody can be healed from losing a child, but you do what you have to do to survive, to keep going. And sadly, I've heard of a couple different people I've made friends with that they can't get out of bed. They just lay there and they can't get out of bed, and it's really sad, because I feel like I understand that. I could very well do the same thing. But I know me, and I know my heart. I know my son would want me to do. And he wouldn't want me to just give up. I mean, and I also have 3 other children that I need to be here for, and they're really good kids, and they've suffered and struggled, but it actually has brought us even closer. I mean, in my family, there were relationships that were, a little bit, I don't know what the word is, a little bit not good. And sadly, when something bad happens like this, sometimes good can come from it. And in this case, it has helped mend those relationships, and it's actually strengthened our family. And we all talk, like we'll check in every day with each other. And just knowing that my other three kids, they're all adults now and they all live in different areas, but I found out just recently that they all touch base and like send a quick text or call or whatever every day. And it wasn't like that before, you know. But they just, I think they unfortunately learned at such a young age that life is, we're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Yes.
You know, young people tend to feel, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. When we're young, we don't think about these things. We live as if we have years ahead of us.
Yeah.
And it's good that we do that. We can't live in fear of dying every day. But yeah. Well, that warms a mother's heart to know that her children are close together.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Sure, Jennifer, it's such a beautiful story. It's a sad story of tremendous loss and grief and your process of mourning. But it's also so inspiring because I always love inviting people onto my Get Up and Grow podcast to talk about the hard things that they face and what they do to work through it, to navigate those muddy waters and get through it. And you mentioned earlier, and I agree with you, I don't think one ever heals from losing a child. I don't think one ever overcomes the trauma of it, but one can get better at bearing it, I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
It does change over time. It doesn't, I wouldn't say it gets easier, but you learn, like, this has almost become not a job, but it's almost, I can focus in and compartmentalize sort of and turn off the emotion part sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes depending on what I'm doing. And I work on so many different projects and things and always planning for the next event that, you know, my mind is always going. But, you know, obviously in the beginning of this journey, I couldn't do that, you know, but over time, like you say, you learn to, I wouldn't say bury it, but you can compartmentalize. That's the only word I can say. And ironically, the very first thing that I did right after my son passed away was I started journaling and I started writing. And lo and behold, it evolved into a book. And since I have wrote 3 books, which are published and available worldwide on Amazon and Bookemon. I share the links to the books on in my support groups on Facebook and on, you know, social media, because it's not about making money. I don't, that's not what the purpose is. But these are geared to grief and not grief recovery, because I'm not sure that you can be fully recovered, but the invaluable tools that I have learned, because I did seek out some grief counseling too, initially in the beginning. But the things that I have learned, I want to share with families. So I share the links for free in the social media realm. And one of the books I saw just recently, I've got over 10,000 reads on it, which it's wonderful that if my words can help or give somebody some kind of peace or comfort in any way, then that's, you know, what I wanted to make sure I can do for them.
Yeah, of course. We'll share them here as well. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Can I share with you an image that I have developed for myself over the years dealing with my grief? I haven't lost a grown child. I had a miscarriage, so I lost a child in pregnancy. And I lost my godson a couple of years ago, which was quite a tremendous experience for me. But I've come to see grief as something that I'm always carrying. But sometimes I will carry it close to my heart in my arms. And sometimes I will carry it on my side over one shoulder. And on good days, I might put it on my backpack. And it's with me, but I'm not aware of it all the time. And sometimes it will be this big thing that I'm holding in front of me, and it's so huge that I can barely see where I'm going. But that's my grief, and I carry it in different ways, depending on what my days are, and my weeks are, and my months are. And I share this with my clients also, and they've always told me that they find that so helpful. I don't think grief is something you ever get over. You just get good at bearing it, as I said, or good at, or better at carrying it. And we carry it differently depending on what is going on in our lives.
I like that analogy. I think that's spot on. Depending on the day and the trigger, you know, something might trigger you, or a smell, something you see, something which then brings it back here close. But there are days, like you say, yes, you can swing it over your shoulder and you can, you know, but I find the busier I am, the more I can hold it back here.
And sometimes I'll just stay and cuddle with it in bed.
They say to do that, but I have a hard time with that. I do. I it's not something that, well, probably nobody wants to, but I've heard it's important to sit with it and to actually feel it. Yeah. It's very difficult.
The main thing is that we all deal with our grief in our own unique way. There's no right or wrong. There's no timeline. There's no deadline to it. We all do it in our own unique way. And the most important thing is to allow ourselves to do it the way that works for us. Yeah. Can I ask the people close to you, your family and your friends, are you supported in this campaign of yours, this mission of yours by everybody? Or are there people who don't understand what you're doing, or people who maybe think you should stop doing it?
Not at all.
Not?
No. Okay. No, I have a lot of support. Family, friends, Christopher's godmothers, the community, so many strangers that I'm starting to meet now in these support groups, multiple groups that I've come to learn or come to meet. And no, it's a very supportive thing. That's what's so weird about it, because you take something so ugly and this poison, and it's such a horrific thing that's happening, but it's bringing people together, people I would have never met, you know, and they're so supportive, especially the moms that have been there, that lost their child. I mean, it might have been a different journey on how they got there, but everybody's story is different. But ultimately, we know how each other's feeling, and we can be a support system. And which is a very strange thing also, to have a stranger sometimes be such a, you know, a supportive person that you feel close to. And I've never met them, you know.
There's so much common ground there between people who've had similar experiences. It's amazing what things bring us together and what things set us apart. Yeah. Fascinating. So what would you say? We've talked a lot about the practical things of preventing or being alert and being aware, so that we don't put ourselves in a dangerous situation. Don't take pills that you don't know where they're coming from, and all the practical side of it. What else would you say to people out there? And it seems that we have to talk to people of all ages. How do we keep ourselves safe from something like this?
I mean, just the continuing education, to, like we said earlier, the stigmas that people, generally have need to be crushed. We need to get rid of that, because that's just not accurate. And I think the more and more, the things that I do, I mean, everybody's different. We all do what we feel led to do and our different things. But I think, you do what you feel led to do, but you take that and you use it to the best of your ability to basically retrain society's outlook on this. And I mean, I'd like to think that it's going to help and it will make a difference. But at this point, like I said, I've seen a decline. I've seen this worsen in the 2 years since my son died. I just feel like we're heading in the wrong direction here. And unfortunately, I think more and more people now, if they haven't already, I think everybody will come to know someone who has died of fentanyl. It's becoming that prevalent that they will either know of somebody that lost somebody, or sadly, I wouldn't wish this on anyone, but if it happens in their family, I think that it's got to get so bad that people see, and I think we're there. I just can't imagine this getting worse. I don't know what. All I know is I just got to keep doing what I can do. That's all I can do.
Yeah. It's a mammoth task, but we have to educate people. I saw recent statistics for South Africa that was published earlier this year, and the fentanyl use has doubled in the last 10 years. Yeah. So it's absolutely scary what's going on. Wow. Sure. This has been an amazing conversation. Jennifer, thank you so much for making this time for us to talk. I'm so inspired by what you do. And I just wish you all the best. I wish you all the best with your campaign. And please, let's stay in touch and see what we can do from our side. And I'm going to launch this in South Africa. It's really, really important to get this information out there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I do appreciate it. Spreading the awareness. I mean, this is a worldwide issue. So.
And also all the best wishes for your family, your other children, and everybody who's close to you. I know it's been 2 years, but it's a long road. It's a lifelong journey for a family to walk when somebody is no longer with them in their midst. So I wish you all the best and lots of love to all of you.
Thank you so much.